guys, I sure coming at you today in Raid Shadow Legends. Welcome to the video. Happy to have you guys here, sending positive vibes your way, especially if you need them today. Today we're going to talk about 11 champions. I couldn't come up with 10. I couldn't narrow it down.
20?
11 champions that do a lot more damage than most players probably would expect from these champions. Only epics and rares on today's list. If you want to see another video like this with legendary champions included, go ahead and let me know in the comments below. I tried to include like a nice variety of champions, not just AoE nukers. Some of them, defense based, some of them support champions that do a lot of damage, some of them new champions, some of them old champions. Well, you get the point, right? Some of them with deceptively hard hitting A1 abilities or just crazy multipliers. Actually, let's just start with the first champion here. I'm gonna use this as an example, right? So number one is Mage Helmet, right? The first Doom Tower Secret Room 1 champion that you get from Easy. This dude is a beast. Most people probably already know that he actually deals a nice amount of damage for a support champion. He's already bringing all these buffs to the table: crit rate, crit damage, increased speed. He's bringing a stun to the table, pretty reliable land rate too on a 3-turn cooldown, and he has turn meter fill on his A1. This guy is a beast, one of the best epics out there in the game, but he also deals a decent amount of damage. Now, here's the thing you got to be careful about, though, guys. When we talk about multipliers, I mean, this might be basic for some of you guys, but I know there's a lot of new viewers who watch and tune in, too, so it's worth saying out the gate here, right? Damage multipliers don't tell the full story. They tell half the story. Damage multipliers are not available inside the game. You have to get them from a website such as Hell Hades or Yumi Love. There's a bunch of them out there, right? So the multipliers tell half the story, but the multipliers are based on the base attack. So the other half of the story is the base attack for attack-based champions, defense or HP for defense or HP-based champions. You have to factor in both numbers. You can't just look at one. That's why sometimes you look at a champion like, I don't know, Kalia, for example, comes to mind, or an Ithwi Blood Twin, and you might think that they are the hardest hitters inside the game because they have massive attacks, but the multipliers aren't necessarily that high. So again, you need both of those factors on any of these champions. Anyway, on Mage Helmet, you can see his base attack is very, very low, but his multipliers are very, very high. He's a 4.8 multiplier on his A1. That's very, very high, but again, you need a high multiplier when you have that low of a base attack. On the A2, the first hit is going to be a 6 multiplier and then a 3.5 AoE. That is really good on top of bringing so much else to the table. Enough about Mage Helmet. This guy is just an absolute boss. One of my favorite champions out there. In terms of epics, speaking of epics, Ness, who actually received a buff. Check out this A3 after the buff, guys. It's actually kind of a nasty ability. This is on a 2-turn cooldown. Only 2 books required to get this ability down to a 2-turn cooldown. You get Ally Protect and the big version of increased defense on a target for 2 turns. Again, I'll say it again.
Ladies and gents, this is the moment you've waited for.
2-turn cooldown.
There is no normal life that is free from pain.
And then you get continuous heal, big version on all allies for 2 turns. Dude, this is an insanely good ability here. This is really good. Ness, really sneaky good champion, and for a healer support champion, she's actually bringing a lot to the table in terms of damage as well. Sure, she's not going to be the main nuker on your team, but she has a whopping 3.5 multiplier on her A1 with increased attack on a random ally. Might as well add it, right? 60% chance of landing that. And on the A2, you're talking about a 5.7 multiplier, and the attack is always critical. So you can build her with no crit rate, just build her as an absolute tank, and she's always critting off that hard-hitting A2. Ness, I should just do a guide on her, man, because she's a really, really good champion now. It's pretty crazy. Okay, next up is going to be a champion that I have done a guide on. This might be the most obvious on the list. I don't know. You guys can let me know. But Alika, I had to include her because I feel like people sleep on Alika. She can be your arena nuker and you'll be doing just fine. Arena farming, you name it, right? She has a very, very, very hard-hitting A2 at 6.3 multiplier. That's hard-hitting, and this is a 2-turn cooldown. 2-turn cooldown. Ignore 50% of the target's defense if their max HP is higher than this champion's HP. That means essentially she can come in there and just one-shot basically anybody inside the arena. One of the more powerful one-shot abilities for epic champions out there. And then on the A3 ability, a 3-turn cooldown, attacks all enemies. 100% chance of increasing the cooldown of all enemy skills by 1 turn. What a great opening nuke for the arena. You reduce the skills by 1 turn, and on top of that, you get a 4.0 multiplier on that A3 ability. Her base attack is pretty healthy at 1354. Again, higher multipliers though. So Alika is definitely one of my favorite epic nukers out there, guys. Next up, we have Ogren. Harkin Greatblade. What? Harkin Greatblade, guys. Now, she's an all-right champion. She's an all-right champion. She's an attack-based champion. She has a weaken that she brings on a 4-turn cooldown. Okay. On the A3, she has a debuff spread. Her kit is not that, I'm going to be honest with you guys. Her kit is not that great. However, she does have the extended duration of those debuffs by 2 turns. A 2-turn extension is incredibly rare. I think she's the only champion in the game that has it, right? So really, really cool there. Kind of a niche ability, niche champion, but her A1, guys, sneaky, hard-hitting ability. It's a 3.3 multiplier, but you get an extra hit if the attack is critical. This is a void champion. Don't have to worry about negative affinity matchups. This can be a 3.3, what did I say? 3.3 multiplier times 2. One of the best ally attack champions. Go along with a counterattack or an ally attacker. She's going to be hitting very, very hard on that A1. Think a champion like Fenix, right? Like, that's how hard we're talking here. On her A2, a 6.2 multiplier. On her A3, a 5.5. So all of her abilities hit very hard. Good for, like, single target bosses. Good for, again, ally attack teams against bosses. All right, next up is going to be a lot of epics. I promise I do have some rares for you guys. I have 2 here. Let's start with a rare first, and it's going to be the Jailer, Ogren Jailer, to be more precise. This dude has some of the highest multipliers inside the entire game. I'll repeat that. This dude has some of the highest multipliers inside the entire game. Granted, his base attack is around 1,300, which is just average, I would say, for an attack-based champion. But check this out, guys. He's got a 4.5 multiplier on his A1. On his A2, a 6 multiplier. He's stealing stuff, an extra hit if the buff is stolen. So a 6.2 times 2 is a lot of damage, right? On his A3, we get another single target ability, a 5.5 multiplier damage increase by 20% if the target has no active buffs. Listen, this dude doesn't have an AoE, but if you're just looking for a single target, just absolute monster for a rare champion, look no further than Ogren Jailer. Again, he's kind of one-dimensional. He doesn't bring a ton to the table, but he does bring a ton of damage. Brand new champion here, guys. I want to do a guide on this guy. He looks so cool. I mean, look at these bug-eye, I don't know, aviator glasses going on over here. What is this armor, man? Like, what is that? Leather? Is it leather mail or something? Anyway, he's cool, man. He's a cool champion. I like him, and he hits very hard as well. On his A1, a 3 multiplier with a big version of Weaken. On the A2, he has a 2.5 multiplier, but it's a 2-time hitter. Also brings increased attack on himself if anybody's under HP burn, which he has on his A3 ability. Attacks all enemies. 100% chance on a 3-turn cooldown of placing an HP burn. That's a lot of damage in its own right. Fills his champion's turn meter by 15% on each critical hit, makes him one of the best spider nukers / burners out there. And what's better is a 3.8 multiplier on this ability as well. So again, a 3.8, a 2.5 times 2, and a 3 multiplier, a hard-hitting A1. I actually really like this Skrank champion they added to the game. He is worthy of being a Void Epic champion, at least in my eyes. What do you guys think? Next one is going to be Gorlos. Gorlos Helma. Are you looking for a Spirit Affinity debuffer who can also deal a tremendous amount of damage? Look no further than Gorlos Helma. He has a 1.95 multiplier, but it's a times 2 on his A1. On his A2, base defense, or attack, excuse me, not too bad at 1354. His defense isn't bad either. His HP leaves a lot to be desired, though, so keep that in mind. On his, and when you see an HP this low, for newer players out there, don't look at that HP and say, dude, I need to put him an HP percentage on the chest just to keep him alive on the chest plate. No. Go HP flat stat on your ring and maybe even on your banner, but do not go HP flat or percentage on your chest. Still go with attack percentage on the chest or defense percentage if you want to keep them alive longer, because keep in mind, again, it's based on the percentage of their base stats. And if the HP is this low, almost 1,300, you're better off just using your accessories to get that HP because it's flat stat, and then concentrating on damage, or in this case, again, defense, which scales a lot better on that chest piece. Anyway, on his A2, he's bringing the big version of decreased defense on a 3-turn cooldown. Great debuffer for that reason. And that has a 4 multiplier, so really hard hitting. He has a 6 multiplier on this 4-turn cooldown A3 ability. He's also bringing HP burn and decreased accuracy for 3 turns with a turn meter filled by 20%. Very good and underrated champion in my mind. Next up is going to be, let's go over here to Dark Elves, man. I love this dude. It's another rare champion, guys. It's Judge.
Remember, only God could judge ya. Forget the haters. I really am judgmental.
This guy is a monster. On his A1. Actually, let's start with his passive. With each hit, has a 30% chance of placing decreased accuracy, decreased speed, decreased attack, decreased defense, all the big versions. Listen, it's only a 30% chance, so it's not dependable, it's not reliable, but it's kind of a cool little passive to have on, especially a rare champion, the big version of so many really important kind of quintessential debuffs in the game that he's just randomly throwing out there, just helping you out, you know? What's more, though, is his A1. This is a insanely hard-hitting ability here, guys. It has a 3 multiplier. He has a 1476, so a strong base attack, especially for a rare. Attacks one enemy. Damage increases by 10% for each debuff on the target. You can get a maximum of extra 100% damage on this A1 ability. It can be a tremendously hard-hitting ability if you have a bunch of debuffs on the target, a la, you know, Clan Boss, right? On the A2 ability, attacks all enemies 2 times, so a 2-time AoE hitter on a 3-turn cooldown. Doesn't even need books, really. Just a little extra damage. Fills his champion's turn meter by 10% for each critical hit, and this has a 1.7, but again, times 2 multiplier on this AoE times 2 ability. Actually really like Judge, man. Very, very cool, rare nuker in the game. Next up, let's hit you with a new champion, guys. I actually do not have her. She's got the Wolverine kind of motif going on here. Like, are these, I think they're coming out of it. Yeah. Check that out, man. She looks pretty cool. It is a Faranox. So she has a very hard-hitting kit, 1409 on the base defense here. She has a 3.4 multiplier on her A1, decrease attack as well. On her A2, the thing about her, though, is, again, single target. So, like we talked about with Ogren Jailer, she's, like, kind of fun to do single target damage with, but, you know, she's pretty niche. You know, single target damage dealers are a dime a dozen in this game, so it's hard to make the case for a champion like this over, you know, I don't know, any other single target damage dealer out there in the game. That being said, it is noteworthy, and I wanted to include her on the list because of this A2 ability, right? Attacks one enemy, Tender Mercies, inflicts 100% more damage against targets without any buffs. So, this is the cool thing about her. It might be the hardest hitting multiplier for a single target inside the entire game. It's a 9.2 multiplier if the target doesn't have any buffs. So again, very conditional, but I thought I'd include her as just a flag to you guys that if you want to have some fun and deal a ton of damage against a target, maybe in the arena without any buffs, builder, have some fun with it, right? Because this game, at the end of the day, it's all about having fun, right? So really cool champion for that ability. If they do have buffs, you're looking at a 4.6 multiplier on this A2, 9.2 if they don't, again. All right, last but not least, guys, I wanted to give you a champion that, from the Shadowkin, right? By the way, there's a lot of champions here who do deal a ton of damage, like a Boro, that I didn't include on the list because I think that most people know, you know, like in Genbo, like he's an absolute monster, right? But I want to talk about Wuji. Now, Wuji is a niche champion in my opinion. I think she's good for Hydra, especially good for Hydra. And I wanted to point her out here. Her base attack is almost 1500. Again, that HP is very, very low, so be cognizant of that. I would definitely put HP on those accessories like we just talked about. But her defense makes up for a little bit. The cool thing about her, though, is with her A3, she puts in a perfect veil and a counterattack on this champion for 2 turns, okay? This is on a 3-turn cooldown when you book it down. Check this out. On her A1, attack one enemy. She's putting the big version of Weaken. Not bad at a 50% land rate at Weaken, but it will go AoE instead when counterattacking with this skill. So, she has the counterattack that she's already bringing on herself to the table. She has that perfect veil to kind of protect her because she is pretty squishy on the HP. And then she's just counterattacking, throwing out the big version as a weaken on the A1 ability. So, really, really cool. She also brings block buffs, which makes her, again, to me, a really good option for Hydra if you're looking for a damage dealer, maybe for your second or third team. Again, an AoE attack, and then she's bringing a, 75% chance of placing block buffs. Debuff for 2 turns, granted on a 4-turn cooldown. I really wish it was on a 3-turn cooldown or 100% on block buffs, but still, this has a 4 multiplier on it, World of Darkness. She's putting out some pretty serious damage. Again, a 2.5 or a 3 on single target on the A1, and then a 4 on the A2 ability. And keep in mind, with that counterattack, she's dishing out a lot of these A1s on the AoE and a debuffer. So really good flag, I would say, on Wuji. So there you go, guys. Those are the 11 champions that I absolutely love that you might not know do as much damage as they do. I hope you like the variety of champions we included, both rare and support and epic and everything else in between. Thank you for watching until the end. Appreciate you guys, and as always, take care, guys.